My name is Emma, and at 29 years old, I had built something extraordinary that my family knew absolutely nothing about. When I decided to visit home for my 30th birthday, I expected the usual modest celebration. Instead, sitting across from me, at our old wooden kitchen table, my mother delivered news that shouldn't have surprised me but still cut deep. "We had to cancel your birthday dinner reservation," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "We need that money for Riley's art school trip to Europe." The familiar sting of being second choice washed over me, but they had no idea what my life had become. 3 days later, as we sat around that same table, my phone would ring and change everything. Growing up in Millbrook, a quiet suburban town where everyone knew everyone, I was always the responsible one. Our house was a modest two-story colonial, with chipped paint and a front yard that my father, David, meticulously maintained between his shifts at the manufacturing plant. My mother, Susan, worked part-time at the local library and filled our home with the scent of her famous chocolate chip cookies and the sound of classical music from her old radio. Then there was Riley, my younger sister by for years, who seemed to collect attention effortlessly. From her first dance recital at age 5 to her art exhibition wins in high school, Riley was our family's shining star. Our mantelpiece groaned under the weight of her ribbons, trophies, and certificates, while my academic achievements were quietly filed away in desk drawers. "Riley has such natural talent," my mother would tell neighbors, "and Emma, well, she works so hard." The implication was clear. Riley was gifted. I was merely diligent. I remember bringing home my first perfect math test in 4th grade. My father glanced at it, said, "Nice work, kiddo," and returned to fixing Riley's broken easel. That same evening, Riley's finger painting of our cat earned a spot on the refrigerator and 30 minutes of enthusiastic praise. This pattern continued throughout our childhood. My straight A's were expected, not celebrated. When I made valedictorian, my parents attended graduation but left early for Riley's art gallery opening. When I received a full scholarship to MIT, they were proud but preoccupied with fundraising. For Riley's summer art camp, money always flowed toward Riley's pursuits: private art lessons, expensive supplies, gallery submission fees. When I needed a new laptop for college or wanted to attend academic conferences, I was reminded about budget constraints and encouraged to find part-time work. By 16, I was working weekends at the bookstore, saving every dollar. My birthdays became exercises in disappointment. My 18th was forgotten entirely during Riley's regional art competition. My 21st was remembered 3 days late with a hastily purchased card. By my mid-20s, I'd stopped expecting anything at all. After graduating from MIT with honors in computer science and artificial intelligence, I moved to Seattle. The distance between Millbrook and Seattle was only a few hundred miles, but emotionally, I was crossing an ocean. My parents' response to my graduation was a generic congratulations card while they threw Riley a surprise party for getting into community college. In Seattle, I started as a junior developer at a tech startup. I worked 18-hour days, volunteered for impossible projects, and spent weekends learning new programming languages. Within 2 years, I was promoted to senior developer, then team lead. But corporate hierarchies felt limiting for what I wanted to achieve. At 25, I took the biggest risk of my life. I withdrew my savings, secured a business loan, and founded Tech Solutions, specializing in AI-powered customer service platforms. Those first months were terrifying. I survived on instant noodles and slept on an air mattress in our tiny rented office space. The breakthrough came 18 months later when our AI chatbot platform caught the attention of a major investor after successfully reducing customer service costs by 40% for 3 pilot companies. We received a $3 million investment for a 15% stake. That investment transformed everything. I moved to a luxury apartment overlooking Elliott Bay, and our company relocated to a modern office in downtown Seattle. Most importantly, I hired Sarah as my executive assistant, someone who became not just indispensable professionally, but my closest friend. Sarah knew everything about my complicated family situation. She'd overheard enough dismissive phone calls from my parents to understand the dynamic. "Your family has no idea you're a millionaire CEO," she'd said incredulously after one particularly condescending conversation with my mother. I'd shrugged. "They think I'm just another office worker struggling to pay Seattle rent." The truth was, my parents never asked for details about my career. Our brief monthly phone calls followed the same script: updates about Riley's latest artistic endeavors, a few cursory questions about my computer job, then they'd rush off to attend to something more pressing. But my professional profile was becoming harder to hide. Last month, I'd been featured on the cover of Tech Weekly magazine. Tech Solutions had grown to 200 employees with our AI platform implemented across Fortune 500 companies. We'd just signed a $50 million contract with a major retail chain. Success brought validation but also emptiness. I'd achieved everything I'd set out to accomplish professionally, yet the personal recognition I craved from my family remained elusive, largely because I'd never given them the chance to acknowledge it. As my 30th birthday approached, I found myself staring at the only family photo on my desk, taken at Riley's college graduation, all of us smiling in the sunshine. Despite everything, they were still my family. Maybe it was time to bridge the gap I'd helped create. On impulse, I called my mother and told her I wanted to come home for my birthday weekend. Her surprise was evident. "Of course, honey, we'd love to see you." I asked Sarah to clear my schedule, declining her offer to arrange a private car service. "I'm driving," I insisted. "Just a normal visit home." The 5-hour drive from Seattle to Millbrook gave me time to rehearse scenarios. Would my parents notice the subtle changes success had brought? My confidence, the quality of my simple clothes, the absence of financial stress? Millbrook looked smaller than I remembered. Main Street still featured Joe's Hardware and Bella's Cafe, but now mixed with chain stores and a Starbucks. I drove past my old high school, past the bookstore where I'd worked, and finally turned onto Maple Street, where my childhood home waited. My mother opened the door before I could knock, her face lighting up with genuine warmth. "Emma," she exclaimed, pulling me into a hug that smelled of her familiar vanilla perfume. "Let me look at you. City life agrees with you." My father appeared behind her, his frame slightly stooped now, hair grayer than I remembered. "There's my girl," he said, giving me an awkward but affectionate hug. The house was exactly as I remembered, same worn furniture, same family photos where Riley's achievements dominated every surface. The only new addition was a bulletin board, covered with European travel brochures and art museum postcards. "Riley will be here soon," my mother said, leading me to the kitchen. "She's just finishing her pottery class. She's been so excited to see you." I helped prepare dinner, falling into old rhythms. As I chopped vegetables, my mother updated me on neighborhood gossip and, of course, Riley's latest achievements. "The art center made her a featured instructor last month," she said proudly. "They've never promoted anyone so quickly. But you know Riley, she just has that special connection with students." I nodded, wondering if she knew I now led board meetings with investors worth billions. "That's wonderful," I said instead. My father sat at the kitchen table, occasionally glancing at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "How's the computer job?" he finally asked. "Going well," I replied automatically. "Busy but good. Making decent money?" he pressed, surprising me with his interest. Before I could answer, the front door burst open and Riley's voice filled the house. "I'm home. Where's the birthday girl?" Riley bounded into the kitchen, a whirlwind of curly auburn hair and paint-stained clothes. At 26, she looked exactly like the free-spirited artist she'd always been. "Emma," she squealed, embracing me enthusiastically. "You look amazing. Seattle must be treating you well." Dinner was lively, dominated by Riley's animated descriptions of her art classes, her latest painting series, and most importantly, her upcoming European museum tour. "I've been manifesting this trip for years," she explained, eyes bright with excitement. 6 weeks studying Renaissance masters in Italy and France. "It's going to be absolutely transformative." "Riley's been saving up," my mother added, though her glance at my father suggested otherwise. "Well, trying to," Riley amended with a laugh. "Teaching art classes is fulfilling spiritually, but not exactly lucrative. Mom and Dad are helping with flights and accommodations." My father cleared his throat. "Speaking of which," he said, not quite meeting my eyes, "Emma, we need to talk to you about your birthday dinner." My mother reached across to pat my hand. "We originally planned to take you to Marcello's tomorrow night. We made reservations months ago. Marcello's was the nicest restaurant in town, where we'd celebrated Riley's college acceptance." My heart warmed at the thought they'd planned something special. "But we had to cancel the reservation," my mother continued apologetically. "We need to put that money toward Riley's trip. The exchange rate keeps getting worse, and if we don't book her accommodations soon, she might miss the Florence workshop entirely." The warmth drained from my chest, replaced by familiar disappointment. We thought we could order Chinese food instead, my father added quickly. Maybe watch a movie at home. Riley had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I told them we could postpone my trip, but the workshop dates are fixed, and this is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for my artistic development. My mother nodded vigorously. Exactly. You understand, don't you, Emma? You have your stable job, but Riley is at a crucial point in her career path. I looked at their expectant faces and felt the weight of 30 years of being the understanding one, the flexible one, the one who needed less. Of course, I said, forcing a smile. Chinese food sounds great. Relief washed over their faces as conversation turned to Riley's detailed itinerary. I sat quietly, fighting the urge to mention that I could fund her entire trip without blinking, let alone pay for a simple birthday dinner. The next morning brought no improvement. My mother had forgotten I didn't drink coffee, only remembering Riley avoided caffeine. When I returned from a coffee run, the house buzzed with activity none related to my birthday. My mother was helping Riley organize travel documents while my father researched European voltage converters. Emma, honey, would you mind running to the store? My mother asked without looking up from Riley's passport. We need ingredients for dinner tonight, even on my birthday. I was useful primarily for errands. That evening, we gathered for Chinese takeout. My mother had ordered Riley's favorites while forgetting I'd always disliked sweet and sour dishes. My father had bought a supermarket cake that read "Happy Birthday, Emma" in crooked frosting letters. So Emma, my father said as we ate, tell us more about this computer job. Still at the same company? The question presented an opportunity to reveal the truth, but something held me back. Still in tech, I said vaguely. Things are going well. That's nice, dear, my mother said absently before turning to Riley. Now, about your connecting flight in Amsterdam. Riley launched into another detailed travel account while my parents listened with rapt attention. I was reaching for my water glass when my phone rang. The screen displayed Office Sarah, her code for important calls. Under normal circumstances, I'd excuse myself to take it privately, but my mother waved dismissively. Go ahead and answer, dear. We know your little office probably needs you even on your birthday. Something in her condescending tone made me answer on speaker. Hello? Sarah's crisp, professional voice filled the dining room. Boss, I'm sorry to interrupt your family time, but I need to confirm details for Monday. Your helicopter is scheduled for AM to the Microsoft campus for the partnership announcement. Should I arrange the usual catering for the press conference? Or would you prefer something different this time? The silence that followed was deafening. My father's chopsticks clattered onto his plate. My mother froze with her wine glass halfway to her lips. Riley's mouth hung open. I stared at my phone, equally shocked. Sarah and I had no Microsoft meeting scheduled, and we'd never used helicopter transportation. Sarah, I said carefully, I think there might be some confusion about my schedule. Oh no, Sarah sounded flustered, very unlike her usual composed self. I just received confirmation from Microsoft's CEO office. They specifically requested you present the new AI integration partnership personally. The board thought helicopter transport would be most efficient given Seattle traffic. Shall I tell them you're unavailable? 3 pairs of eyes stared at me in complete disbelief. I took a deep breath, realizing there was no going back. Please tell them I'll review the materials before confirming, I said, trying to maintain professional composure, despite my racing heart. Let's discuss details tomorrow. Of course, boss. Again, sorry for the interruption. Happy birthday. As I ended the call, the dining room remained frozen. My father broke the silence first. Boss? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. I looked at their shocked faces and realized the moment of truth had arrived. I've been meaning to tell you something about my work. What exactly do you do? My father asked, his voice uncharacteristically sharp. I took a deep breath. I'm the founder and CEO of Tech Solutions. We develop artificial intelligence platforms for customer service applications. My mother's forehead creased in confusion. But you told us you worked at a tech company. I do work at a tech company, I said carefully. But I don't work for someone else. I own the company. I built it from nothing 5 years ago. Riley let out a disbelieving laugh. Wait. You own a company that uses helicopters? We don't own helicopters, I clarified. We charter them when necessary. But yes, Tech Solutions is a major player in AI technology. We have over 200 employees and contracts with some of the biggest companies in America. My father leaned forward. How many people work for you? 200 as of last month. We'll probably add 50 more after our newest contract launches. And you're the boss of all those people? My mother said slowly, as if testing the concept. I nodded, watching realization dawn on their faces. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked, with an edge suggesting I'd somehow deceived them. When would I have told you? I asked quietly. Our phone calls last 10 minutes and focus entirely on Riley's achievements. You've never really asked about my work beyond whether I still have the same job. My father flinched at this truth. We always ask how work is going, my mother protested. Tech Solutions was featured on the cover of Tech Weekly last month, I said, unable to keep hurt from my voice. Our platform won the National Innovation Award last year. If you'd ever searched my name online, you'd have found dozens of articles and interviews. My father looked genuinely stricken. We had no idea, Emma. That's exactly the point, Dad. You never thought to look. You never imagined I could be doing anything significant. Riley, who'd been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly spoke up. So you're rich now? Is that what this is about? You came home to show off how successful you are. No, Riley. I came home hoping to reconnect with my family. I downplayed my success because I wanted to be seen for who I am, not what I've achieved. But now you're throwing it in our faces, she said accusingly, making us feel bad about canceling a dinner when apparently you could buy the whole restaurant. I didn't plan for Sarah to call, I said evenly. But yes, it hurts that my birthday is still the first thing to be sacrificed. It hurts that you all assumed I'd understand because that's what I've always done. My father cleared his throat. Emma, we never meant to make you feel less important. You've always thought Riley needed support more. I finished for him. Maybe that was true when we were kids, but I'm 30 years old and you still treat me like my feelings matter less. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We've always been proud of you, Emma. You're so responsible and independent. That's just it, Mom. You're proud that I don't need you, that I never cause problems. You appreciate my absence more than my presence. Riley pushed back from the table abruptly. This is ridiculous. You disappear to Seattle, barely keep in touch, hide your entire life from us, then blame us for not knowing about it. There was truth in her words that made me pause. Had I withdrawn too completely? You're right, I acknowledged, surprising her. I stopped trying to be seen years ago, but that doesn't change the pattern of putting my needs last. My father stood up, looking troubled. I think we all need time to process this. Emma, I'm sorry about your birthday dinner. Maybe we can still call Marcello's, my mother suggested weakly. The offer felt too little, too late. I think I need some space, I said, standing. I'm going to get a hotel room tonight. Don't be ridiculous, my mother protested. Your room is ready. I need to think, Mom, and handle some work calls, I added, feeling safer than admitting the emotional truth. Running away again, Riley said. Some things never change. Her words stung because they held truth. But staying felt impossible with decades of hurt suddenly exposed. As I walked to the door, my father followed. Emma, he said quietly, I'm sorry. Not just about dinner, about everything. I nodded, unable to trust my voice, then walked to my rental car, finally letting tears fall once I was safely inside. The Millbrook Inn was hardly luxury accommodation, but it offered privacy I desperately needed. After checking in, I called Sarah back. I'm so sorry, she began immediately. I completely misunderstood your situation. When you mentioned going home for your birthday, I assumed your family knew about your success. It's not your fault, I assured her. Maybe it was time they found out anyway. There's no Microsoft meeting, she confessed. I improvised when I realized my mistake. Despite everything, I laughed. Well, your improvisation skills are impressive. The next morning, I woke to several text messages. My mother, please come home for breakfast. We need to talk. Riley, sorry about last night. Sort of. My father simply wrote, call me. Instead, I ordered room service and caught up on emails. Around noon, there was a knock at my door. My father stood there looking uncertain and older than I remembered. May I come in? He asked. I stepped aside, noticing how he surveyed the suite with surprise. Nice place, he commented. It's fine, I said, gesturing to the sitting area. We sat in awkward silence before he spoke. Emma, I owe you an apology. Many apologies. Dad, you don't have to. Please let me say this. He leaned forward. I've been thinking all night about how we've treated you and Riley differently. You're right, we have. He clasped his hands together. When you were born, you were this serious, capable baby. You rarely cried, solved problems independently. When Riley came along, she was the opposite, demanding, needy, always requiring attention. We got into the habit of focusing more energy on her because she seemed to need it more. Being self-sufficient wasn't always a choice, I said quietly. I know that now. We mistook your independence for not needing us when we'd actually trained you to expect less. We talked for over an hour, covering years of misunderstandings. He told me how Riley's outgoing personality came easier to him, while my analytical mind reminded him of his own distant father. I shared how I'd interpreted their focus on Riley as evidence I was somehow less worthy of attention. That was never true, he insisted, voice rough with emotion. We worried more about Riley because she seemed fragile. We thought you had everything figured out. As our conversation ended, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Please come home. I made your favorite chocolate cake. I showed him the message and he smiled. She's been stress baking since dawn. Back home, my mother was waiting on the porch. When she saw me, she rushed forward with unusual fierceness. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I've been a terrible mother. Not terrible, Mom. Just human. Over slices of perfect chocolate cake. She had remembered my favorite after all. My mother shared her perspective. I always thought you were the strong one, she explained. The one who could handle anything. Riley needed so much reassurance while you seemed so capable, so sure of yourself. I was faking it most of the time, I admitted. I learned early that showing need didn't get me very far. Our conversation was interrupted by Riley's cautious entrance. Can we talk? She asked. My parents retreated to the garden, leaving us alone. Riley sat across from me, uncharacteristically fidgeting. So you're basically a tech mogul, she said. I wouldn't go that far. According to Google, you are, she countered. I spent hours last night researching you. Why didn't you ever tell me? Partly because no one asked. Partly because I was afraid it wouldn't matter, that even knowing I'd built something significant, you'd all still see me as boring, responsible Emma. Riley winced. That's not fair, isn't it? Did you actually remember it was my birthday? Before Mom mentioned canceling dinner, her silence was answer enough. Look, I continued more gently. I'm not blameless. I withdrew, kept secrets. But can you understand why? Riley nodded slowly. I think so. And I'm sorry about the birthday dinner. I should have insisted they keep the reservation. It's not about the dinner, it's about the pattern of always being expected to understand, to need less. I never saw it that way, she admitted. I just thought that was our dynamic. You were the successful one. I was the artist who needed help. Maybe we've both been playing roles assigned long ago, I suggested. Maybe we need to see each other more clearly. Riley reached for my hand. I'd like that. And happy belated birthday, sis. For what it's worth, I always looked up to you, even when I was getting all the attention. That evening, I suggested we go out to dinner, not to Marcello's but to Giovanni's, the finest restaurant in the region. As we enjoyed a meal that cost more than my parents typically spent on groceries for a month, we talked more openly than we had in years. My mother asked detailed questions about tech solutions. My father wanted to understand our AI technology. Even Riley showed genuine interest in my work. We should visit Seattle, my mother suggested. See your office, your home, really understand your life there. I'd like that, I said, meaning it. 3 weeks later, I stood in the private aviation terminal watching my family's amazed reactions to the sleek corporate jet. My father examined it with an engineer's appreciation. My mother nervously clutched new luggage I'd sent them. Riley bounced with barely contained excitement. I still can't believe you're doing this, she said for the 10th time. Consider it making up for lost time, I replied. Instead of funding just Riley's European trip, I'd arranged for our entire family to spend 10 days together, 5 days at a luxury resort in Hawaii, 5 exploring San Francisco and Seattle. It was extravagant, yes, but after years of distance, I wanted quality time in neutral territory. The past month had brought significant changes. My parents had visited my Seattle penthouse, toured Tech Solutions offices, and met my team. Seeing me in my professional environment, confident, respected, clearly in command, had fundamentally shifted their perception of me. More importantly, though, I was their daughter, not perfect, not invulnerable, but worthy of the same care they'd always given Riley. On our last night in Hawaii, Sitting on the beach under stars, my father raised his wine glass in a toast. To Emma, he said, voice warm with pride and regret. Not just for this incredible trip, but for having courage to break our family patterns, for showing us who you really are, even when we were slow to see. My mother wiped away tears. And for forgiving our blindness to second chances, Riley added. As our glasses clinked under the starlight, I felt peace I hadn't known in decades. The hurt hadn't completely disappeared. Deep patterns rarely heal without scars. But something new was growing: understanding, forgiveness, honest connection. Back home, I surprised my family again with news that Tech Solutions would open a satellite office just outside Millbrook. We're expanding anyway, I explained, and I realize I want to be closer to home. More surprising was Riley's request to join our marketing team. I still love art, she clarified, but maybe it's time I challenge myself with something where I have to earn my place. My parents were evolving too. My father volunteered to mentor young engineers part-time. My mother started a digital literacy program for seniors using our simplified interfaces. As for me, I was learning that true success couldn't be measured in contracts or revenues. The wealth that mattered most wasn't in bank accounts, but in these renewed connections and being fully seen and accepted by people who'd known me longest. On my 31st birthday, we celebrated at Marcello's, the restaurant from the previous year's cancellation. No last-minute changes, no competing priorities, just family honestly connecting. I've been thinking, my mother said as dessert arrived, about something you said that night when everything changed, about how we appreciated your absence more than your presence. I winced slightly at the memory of those harsh words. You were right, she continued. We took your strength for granted, assumed you needed less because you asked for less. That was our failure, not yours, and my failure was pulling away instead of speaking up, I acknowledged. My father reached for my hand. The important thing is we're writing a new story now, together. Looking around at their faces older, but newly familiar, I realized the greatest gift hadn't been recognition of my success or even their apologies. It was this, the chance to know and be known, to love and be loved, not for what we accomplished but simply for who we were. The journey of healing is rarely complete, and our family still had work to do. But sitting in that restaurant that once symbolized rejection, I felt profound homecoming, not to a place, but to belonging. What had begun with a canceled birthday and an unexpected phone call had become something I never expected: a second chance at family. Not perfect, not without complications, but real and worth fighting for.